Chapter 3, looking at environmental history, legislation, and economics. So Chapter 3 starts out by talking about the Unfunded Mandate Review Act, where federal governments are required to pay for expensive future programs that it imposes on local, state, and or local governments. Meaning, if Congress passes a law that requires states or local governments to regulate an expensive environmental problem or issue, the federal government has to figure out how to pay for it. It can't require the local governments to figure out how to pay for it. One big issue now with looking how to fund or pay for a law that it was passed by Congress was No Child Left Behind, and that one was debated quite often a couple years ago when that was enacted. There were some laws, environmental laws, that were passed before that still local governments and states have to figure out how to pay to regulate those acts, like the Safe Water Drinking Act and the Clean Air Act. In environmental science, you're going to hear these two words very often: conservation and preservation. What's the difference? Well, conservation is where you carefully manage natural resources, meaning you're using them, but you make sure that you don't overuse them. Like forestry. The forestry industry in Florida is a good example of conservation. They still harvest the trees, but they don't over-harvest them, so they are completely wiping out their supply. They're planting more than they harvest, so they make sure to manage properly their resource. And then there's preservation, where that's actually setting aside undisturbed areas like national parks or different types of reserves, so it stays in its pristine state, and protecting it from human activities that might alter the natural state. Here's a nice flow diagram looking at the environmental history of the U.S. from 1970 to 2002. I want you to pause this and take a look and read through each one which happened and when and what year it is happening. I'm going to go through a couple key ones, but I would like you to pause and look at all of them. Alright, so starting out to begin with, 1970, it was the first Earth Day. Alright, and then I'm going to jump down here. 1973, the Arab countries in the OPEC, and OPEC stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, announces oil embargo against the United States, which means that they were not distributing or exporting oil to the United States. 1974, CFCs are first hypothesized as the reason for the ozone thinning. 1979, worst nuclear accident ever at 3 Mile Island. Let's keep going down. 1985, when I was born, scientists discovered and measured the size of a hole in the ozone over Antarctica. Keep going. 1989, the Exxon Valdez oil tanker, largest spill in U.S. history as of its time, but what is the one that just happened? Much larger than this. Yes, the BP spill. Alright, let's keep going down. Ooh, I forgot this one. 1986, Chernobyl. Alright, worst nuclear accident ever. Alright, even more than the recent Fukushima disaster in Japan. Let's keep going down. 1999, human population reaches 6 billion. And I'm going to go ahead and let you look through the rest of those.